I know what you're thinking. That looks familiar. Hello and welcome to This Is Us. I'm Becca King-Reed. Today we're at History Park and behind me is the San Jose Electric Tower. It's one of the many fun things you'll see as you wander through the park. That one's actually a replica. The original was built in 1881 and the design was to light up downtown. They billed it as the seventh wonder of the West. It was so exciting that the designer of the Eiffel Tower actually traveled to San Jose to take a peek at it when he was looking for ideas. And today we're going to take a journey too. We're going to get a peek at antique spy gear. We're going to get a close-up look at all the technology used by spies throughout history. We'll also meet an energetic pair of paddle-pounding Olympians, a NASA scientist who's reinventing the way we do planetary exploration, and one of the youngest female engineers to fire up a steam engine. We're going full speed ahead, and it all starts now.
This is us.
This is us.
This is us.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Ralph Simpson, cipher enthusiast and volunteer here at History San Jose, and you have brought us a very significant collection of audio surveillance tools. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, all of this came from a gentleman by the name of Leo Jones. He was in 1950 a 24-year-old man who developed, designed, and manufactured this surveillance equipment. And he was a pioneer in this development. And it turns out that many of the companies that later developed this equipment were referred to as Fargos, because that was considered the industry standard.
So that was the name of his company, and it just became sort of like the Kleenex of...
The Kleenex of surveillance equipment, yes. And he was able to exploit many of the technological advances that happened after World War II and then with the transistor to miniaturize many of the surveillance things, so that he went from body wires that included radio tubes down to transistors and much smaller.
So streamlined now. You can put them in objects you would never suspect. So tell us about this handbag.
Well, this handbag is a woman's handbag from the 50s. And as you can see right here, there's a small hole.
Oh, yes.
And that hole has behind it a microphone. So that microphone would be attached, in this case, to a relatively small transmitter at the time, and the transmitter on the other end would have a antenna connected to it. And here's the base of the antenna, and the antenna wire goes through the strap right here, and it follows the strap all the way around.
Clever.
So you get a little bit of height to the antenna so that it could have a little further distance that it can reach.
That's quite impressive. So someone from a distance can record the conversation.
That's right, and here's some examples of some receivers that he developed. Here's the headset. There's some additional small microphones that could be hidden in a room.
Oh, amazing.
And at the right time, some of the conversation can be recorded.
Now, speaking of the conversation, he was actually the subject of a movie by that name.
That's right. Francis Ford Coppola wrote, directed, and produced the movie, which in 1974 won the Cannes Film Festival Award. And it was starring Gene Hackman in the role of Leo Jones. And Leo Jones also happened to be the technical advisor for the film.
Oh my gosh. Now he was not only the star of movies, he also developed or participated in the development of the federal wiretap law.
That's right. He was strongly opposed to having criminals have access to this type of equipment. So he helped through congressional committees and so forth to limit the ability for anyone to buy this equipment and for federal law enforcement to use it in illegal ways also. So it was definitely through his instigation that the federal wiretap laws were passed.
Great deal of respect for the power of the technology.
Yes, very much so.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us today.
Yes, thank you.
Ralph and I will be back in a minute with an infamous cipher device. But first, meet two young Olympians whose reflexes are so dizzyingly fast, they'll make your head spin.
They come from all over, in many shapes, many sizes, and a lot of paddles, to play a game that is wicked fast. You may call it by the pastoral name ping pong, but this is take no prisoners table tennis, and it is relentless, heartless, and merciless. Played by athletes, well, that could double as angels from central casting. But it doesn't hurt if you're agile, mobile, and just a little hostile.
I love like the fast reflexes and how you have to react so fast. And there's so much strategy within the game, and a lot of people don't know, but there's like a lot of mental game that goes into it. So I basically just love everything about it.
Table tennis is one of the fastest sports in the world. Like the spin on the ball can go as fast as a jet engine. So, I mean, you got to react like this.
In Milpitas, table tennis is the sport du jour at the India Community Center. That's right, Buster, Milpitas. Hundreds of kids are battling it out for a shot at the big time. Two of the very best are 16-year-old Lily Zhang and 21-year-old Timothy Wang, both members of the 2012 USA Olympic table tennis team.
Oh my gosh, it was definitely the most amazing experience of my life, just being there with all the other U.S. athletes and being part of the U.S. team. It was such an honor, and it's definitely something I want to do again.
The Olympics was a great experience. It's a great learning experience for me, definitely, because as a U.S. table tennis player, I don't get much exposure to the international scene. So to be able to compete with the best of the best, it was definitely a great learning experience.
Wang started playing when he was barely able to stand.
Table tennis was a family sport for us. My whole family played. I have two older brothers that also played when I was younger. And my parents, they used to bring me to the club when I was a baby, and they would sit me on the table and they'd hold my hand, I'd hit the ball back and forth with them. And that's how I got into it. It was a lot of fun for me.
Wang is a star on the rise in the U.S. He won the Junior National Championships, the Men's National Championships in 2010, and then also pulled down the Canadian Open Doubles Championships before making the U.S. Olympic team.
Before, I was only playing table tennis for fun, but the last 4 years, I've just been training pretty much every day, whether it be in Houston or out here in ICC, and I'm just glad that I could have been a part of it, representing the country.
Lily Zhang also has a very impressive resume. She was the youngest person ever to join the U.S. national team at 11, and she had teammates that were in their 40s. Recently, she won the North American Junior Women's Championships.
I started when I was 7 years old, and my parents used to play for fun, so I kind of just went along with them and joined them. And it never started out seriously. I never expected to make the Olympics or anything, but as time went on, and I won a few tournaments, and I was like, wow, I can really do this, and I really love it.
For the junior from Palo Alto High School, she not only got the chance to play in the Olympics, but also the opportunity to meet some of the very best athletes in the world.
And I met Michael Phelps, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Misty May, and Kerry Walsh, and everybody was so nice. It was so cool seeing them all there and meeting them all.
Stay, go, and yes, Chole.
Seemingly overnight, well, actually since 2005, the ICC has been producing champions and now Olympians.
There's so many young players here, and I think table tennis is definitely improving in the U.S. More people are starting to play, and ICC has been so supportive of me and everybody here, and I definitely wouldn't be here without them.
The U.S. is yet to win a medal at table tennis in the Olympics. China flat out dominates the sport. They're sort of like the New York Yankees with little paddles. Nevertheless, the U.S. is knocking on the door.
If I have a chance to go for it, I'm definitely going to go for it. I got to work hard these next 4 years, and hopefully next time I can bring a medal back.
So with the help of the ICC, the USA just might medal with Zhang and Wang. And the world should watch out for the kids from Milpitas, because 2020 is just around the corner.
Welcome back. I'm with Ralph Simpson, and we're going to talk about cipher machines. And you've brought with you one of the most famous of them all. Tell us about the Enigma machine.
Well, this was invented by the Germans, so this was used in World War II by the German armies. This particular machine is a type of cipher that's considered electromechanical. So as you push a key, it's battery operated, and each letter will get transposed up to 9 times. It first goes through a plug board here, then it goes into 3 different wheels, and each wheel will change the letter, and then it comes through a rotor, which will change the letter, and then it comes back through the same 3 wheels, but in a different order, and then it comes back through the plug board, and then it eventually lights up a light.
Wow.
So
okay, so it goes
each
through
letter,
many shufflings.
yes, and each letter will get changed not only up to 9 times, but then the very next letter will cause this wheel to advance, so it gets a whole different cipher. So for instance, if I press an L here, a letter will light up in E, but you'll notice that this wheel also moved.
Right.
So the next time I press that same letter, a different letter will light up. Yes. So it's a diabolical cipher.
Very crafty.
Yes, it is.
So can we try to send a message?
Sure, sure. Now the first thing that an operator would do in sending a message is to make sure that they have the settings correct on the machine. And this is where the diabolicalness of this machine plays in. There are 5 wheels to choose from, and he inserts 3 wheels in the order for the day. And then they have to be put on a certain setting here from 1 to 26. So let's set it on 8, 10, and 12 as an example.
Okay. And then every soldier who operated one of these would get that code in the morning, and they'd all set their
That's right. That's right.
wheels.
They would set the wheels usually at midnight, and that would be the setting for the day, including all of the plug boards.
Okay, so that would be a pattern they would repeat as well.
That's right.
Okay.
And now it's time to send a message.
All right, let's
and
send a message.
so I will send a message. I'll press a letter here, and if you would write down
I'll be happy to
the
do that.
coded message, I'll press an H.
So S.
And then an E.
A.
And then an L.
N.
And L again.
There's a Z.
And an O.
And a W.
Okay,
All right.
So very good.
So now we have this Sanswa.
Yes, and so there's the code. It needs to be sent by radio, usually Morse code, and the receiving person would have to set his settings to the original position, 8, 10, 12.
So for every message, he starts again at the same position.
At that same position. And then if I could take that message and ask you to type in the right codes.
Okay.
So the first letter is an S.
Okay.
And that's translated
H.
into an H, then an A.
I got an
That's
E.
an E, and then an N.
An L.
An L. A Z.
Where is that Z? Another L.
Another L.
Aha.
And then a W.
Oh.
Oh. So there was the original
So there's
message.
our message.
There's the message.
So
And
you can encode or decode with the same machine.
same machine, same settings.
Amazing.
Yes, and part of the fascination, I think, behind this machine is that it is very difficult to crack. If you had 100,000 operators trying to brute force an attack on this machine, and they could change these settings once a second, 24 hours a day, it would take twice the age of the universe to break this code. But yet the Polish, British, and Americans did by using very subtle and interesting developments, including the beginnings of computing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. We're so excited to have been able to show the audience an Enigma machine. They're hard to find and hard to see, and we were able to even touch one, so thanks.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll take a look at airborne spycraft. But first, take a look at this CEO whose main objective is to keep her business roaring.
When you envision the CEO of a railroad, chances are this is not how you pictured their day job. Most don't cut deals with grease on their gloves. Melanie Clark runs Roaring Camp Railroads, and as you may have guessed, every so often, she still works on the steam engine's crew.
There's something about being up on those locomotives. You know that they're 100 years old. You think of all the places that they've operated. You think of all of the men that have sat in those seats, what their lives were like when it was just a job to them, you know, and that you've sat where they've been, and that you're also bringing this piece of history back to life.
Roaring Camp Railroads is a 180-acre historic theme park in Felton, complete with an old western village, train depot, and several 100-year-old steam engines. Besides the locomotives, the big draw here, the 600 to 800-year-old old-growth redwood trees, some towering up to 250 feet above the rail lines.
May I have your attention, please? In just a few moments, engine number 1 will be pulling into the station.
In railroad circles, there are very few females in charge.
In order to find the gold, you guys, you're going to have to get the dirt out of the way.
Even fewer who know how to pan for gold.
See how the sand is starting to roll off like that?
Because here at Roaring Camp, Even the CEO helps with a visiting school group.
You cannot specialize at roaring camp. There's no such thing. And if you come on board and you tell me you specialize, you're not going to be here very long.
In operation nearly 50 years, the park was a vision of Melani's father, Norman Clark. He and Melani's mother, Georgie, founded the property in 1958. And it was Norman who spent 5 years cutting lines, laying track, building a rail line from scratch. For the avid history buff who loved the American experience, a dream come true.
He was somebody who didn't take no for an answer, and I think what I picked up from him is don't always listen to the naysayers. If you want it badly enough, if you talk to the right people, it'll happen. And I think he proved that.
And at a young age, she proved something to her dad. Told as a teen to stay off the locomotives, behind his back, she learned how to be a fireman. A story she wrote and illustrated in a children's book. When a crew member called in sick, Melani jumped in the cab. Her father rode along, and after a flawless run, to her surprise, he climbed down off the engine and walked away.
And there were 4 more trips that day, so it was his way of acknowledging to me that he was accepting that I knew what I was doing. You know? And from then on, I was on the crew.
Clark was one of the youngest females to fire a steam engine. Here she is at just 19.
I love firing. I love being around the steam engines. It's just family. It's down to the family. Our family's been on railroads, and I've just stayed with it.
Just as roaring camp started to become very popular, a tragedy hit the Clark family. Norman Clark, Melani's father, died very suddenly at the age of 50, and Melani says she was never the same again.
Being a teenager is over. You immediately fall into what do you do to survive? How do you keep the business going? Because he really was the whole force behind roaring camp. I think a lot of people felt that without Norman, roaring camp wouldn't go on. So 1 child and 4 adults?
To help her mother run the business, Clark dropped out of college. She finally re-enrolled in her 30s, taking 1 class at a time. It took her 8 years, but she earned a degree with honors.
I felt as though I knew roaring camp operations, you know, I had it down pat. I could do trains, but I felt to be more well-rounded, that it was important to go back.
For Clark, her education started earlier than college. She and her 2 sisters grew up in this park. The rail lines, the steam trains, and the majestic redwood groves, their backyard.
This mountain I know like the back of my hand. You know, all of the trails on it, all of the back ways to get up and down it, deer paths, you name it.
Now retired and still raking leaves, it was Melani's mother, Georgie, who ran the place until she could pass the torch to her daughter.
I love the railroad, but I want her to use her talents to what she wants, will make her complete. And so if that's her dream, wonderful. If it's not, wonderful.
And as she takes her turn in the cab, Melani is keeping her family's dreams alive, for her dad, for herself, and for the engines she's learned to love.
Welcome back. Ralph Simpson has brought us some very stealthy technology used by pilots during World War II. Tell us what this does. It's 2 pieces.
Yes.
And how do they work?
Well, it's called an IFF radio. That stands for Identify Friend or Foe.
Ah, good to do, good to do.
Yes, and you notice there's no controls for the pilot to worry about. A beacon is automatically sent out to remote planes, and the plane is supposed to reply with the correct reply. And if it's a correct reply, you know that's a friend. If it's not a correct reply, you are to shoot at it.
And this is because planes were speedy and could sneak up on you quickly.
That's right. You can spot a plane by radar before you could visually see it, but then you don't know if it's a friend or foe unless you have a device like this.
Okay.
And it's made up of 2 parts. So the sending and receiving of the message, the radio is the part down below. This top part supplies the power to the radio.
Okay.
And it also has inside another important function. There's a little cogged wheel here that spins around, and it moves up and down this little Morse code tapper, which sends out
So it bumps that and it actually sends a little Morse code message.
Yes, and that little Morse code message changes every day. And so that's how you know that you've got a friend on the other plane. Because if I were to lose a plane in enemy territory and they were to capture this radio, they could spoof being a friend. But if they didn't have the right code wheel in for that day, it would prevent them from being recognized.
So every day the pilot changes and puts in a new one.
That's right.
So a word goes out. They get a memo in the morning and they know which one to do.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
That's what they do.
Well, hopefully everybody gets that memo.
I hope so. Yes.
Now this is also still in use today. It's the black box.
That's it. The transponder in every commercial and military plane in the world.
Amazing.
Yes.
Now tell us about this big green box.
Okay, this green box is a direction finding radio. And so this unusual looking contraption on top is the antenna, and it has some sights like a gun scope to identify where the strongest element of that radio signal is coming from.
So if there's some radio broadcasting in the area, this thing spins around and identifies where it's coming from. So looking for spies. Looking for spies, yes. And in that case, you need two of these, because this will tell you one direction, you need another one to triangulate, and then you can go after that spy. And then you can find the spies.
That's it.
Very fun.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing this technology with us. This has been a blast.
Well, thank you.
When we come back, we'll take a look at another piece of pilot technology, the red button. But first, let's meet a man who's building a sort of new species. This one doesn't breathe.
I have a great job. I wake up every morning and the first thing I want to do, even before breakfast, is get to work.
Meet Terry Fong, the man who's helping to make NASA relevant again. His mission doesn't require him to wear an astronaut suit or even to break the sound barrier. The space shuttle program is long gone. This is the new breed of NASA, and the future is robotic.
I just love the idea that the work we're doing here at NASA Ames is going to reinvent the way we do planetary exploration.
In truth, robots are not new to NASA. They've been a part of the team since Sojourner launched into space nearly 20 years ago. But this is the first time all eyes have been focused on them.
And it's not a question of human or robot. The question is, how can we best combine human and robots? For example, we don't have a lander that we can use to take humans all the way to the surface of Mars. But we know we can put robots there. And we're going to use this whole robot here to do work.
It's an exciting time for Terry, who's been enthusiastic about building robots ever since he wandered into the space lab at MIT. He was instantly hooked.
That really opened up this whole, world of robots to me. And that really gave me this passion for figuring out, could I build robots that do more than just act as a tool?
And it's important that we work right in this space.
Fast forward to today, and Terry is still as passionate as an undergrad. The big difference is now he's the director of the Robotics Intelligence Group at NASA Ames. There, Terry has overseen the design and construction of some of the most advanced robots around.
The best thing about robots for me is that there's no limit to what they can possibly do. The Curiosity rover mission is going to explore the surface of Mars in ways that we've never been able to before. Closer to Earth, on the space station, there's the Robonaut 2, which is a humanoid robot, so it has 2 arms and fingers, and it can pick up and manipulate objects like you and I can. There's also a free-flying robot on space station called Spheres. They're carrying smartphones. We're using it as a robot processor to allow the robots to do more on space station. And to me, that's just really exciting.
Back at NASA Ames, another of Terry's robots is looking to make big strides in space without ever leaving Earth.
K-10 is a 4-wheeled robot that's carried lots of different science instruments. We've had everything from ground-penetrating radars to 3D laser scanners and spectrometers on it to understand how you can use mobile robots in ways that they've never been done before.
Since the K-10 has not yet journeyed into space, Terry's team did the next best thing and brought Mars to the robot.
There's only so much we can do in the laboratory to simulate the real world or to simulate other planets. And one of the reasons why we go to the Arizona desert, the Canadian Arctic, places in Washington State, is to go to places that have characteristics which are similar to the Moon or Mars.
And in a way, the K-10 will edge even closer to space next summer. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station will attempt to remotely operate the robot while it's stationed at NASA Ames.
I've just been really fortunate to help develop these because I think they're going to change the way we think about exploring other planets.
Although Terry realizes there's no guarantee that that experiment will work.
Because if you think about it, having astronauts in space means, well, there's no gravity, so they're floating in space. They can't have a direct view of the robot, so all has to be communicated through a user interface.
However, this type of challenge is exactly what drives Terry to find new ways to improve NASA's robots.
You know, I'm always asking myself, how can we take robots and push them further? How can we do more with them? Doing that job is a really interesting and really fun thing, frankly, for us to do. To me, you know, the future is just full of possibilities.
Well, we have just enough time for one more quick story. Ralph, tell us about the red button in the plane cockpit.
Well, the red button is attached to the IFF radio, and if the pilot, it looks like he's going down in enemy territory, he's to press the red button to set off an explosive charge in this radio to melt it, so to make sure the enemy did not get this radio.
As though he doesn't have enough to think about.
That's right.
To
parachute out,
destroy the radio.
It's all important. He has to destroy the radio. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your great stories and your wonderful collection with us.
Well, thank you.
For everyone at This Is Us, I'm Becca King-Reid saying so long.
This is us. This is us.